Past Life. Chapter 16. My Journey from Cynicism to Sincerity. This is my second attempt. Because, I gotta say, I like being cynical. I associate cynicism with truth. Because cynicism takes the average, the agreed upon, the facade, the normal, the standard, and tries to find something behind it, which is usually something, that contradicts the facade, the dark underbelly, the untruth behind the truth, behind the things that people say, that people think. And, there's a lot of it. A lot of my life I've spent looking for that, for those things. I think, thinking back about it, I think it goes back all the way back to this column I did for our high school newspaper, The Surf Rider. It was called "Our Man in the Bathroom," and the conceit was that I was an anonymous guy in the bathroom in a stall, with locked doors, writing down notes of the things that he hears going on, so people will speak the truth when they're alone, in the bathroom conferring, and they think no one's listening, and then I would write that down and say the truth, and it was funny, or at least they told me it was funny. Once in a while they would tell me it was funny. I got a lot of thumbs up and a lot of slaps on the back for describing a cheerleader as particularly bouncy. It was a sexual reference, of course. I think it was probably the first. I was a good Mormon boy then. I think it was probably the first sexual reference I ever made in my life, and the boys like that. So, and I complained about a lot of what was going on. And I still do that, of course. I came to Germany and was confronted with the horrible, dark underbelly of my country and why America is so terrible. It was like the first thing I heard out of German mouths. And of course, it was the Reagan time, so it's worse under Republican. Any Republican president, is the devil in person. Even though, of course, Germans themselves, vote. 2 out of 3 German chancellors are conservative on the conservative side. But when America does it, it's evil, and so I was confronted with this constantly with all the horrible things that America did. And then I started to look it up and started to think, okay, well, America's all this terrible place. Let's see if this is really true. And of course, it was fairly easy to punch holes in their arguments. No, but see that's the thing. That's not true. It wasn't easy to punch holes in their arguments. It was easy to find the holes in the arguments. But the punching was a different matter because they were punching faster and louder, and there were more of them. You could, little thing, my go-to, and I've done this before, everyone rolls their eyes when I say this, but, like the fast food thing, right? All Americans and all Germans think that fast food comes from America. In fact, McDonald's was launched as a food chain, I think in 1950. White Castle was before that at some point, 30s or something. But the go-to German fast food chain, which they don't call a fast food chain, they call it a restaurant chain, but it's fast food, is Nordsee, and it was that was founded in the 19th century, late 19th century, just before the turn of the century, 50 years before McDonald's, and it was a huge. By the time McDonald's came around, it was it had like 250 outlets, all over Europe, or in the northern part of Europe, I guess. Selling fish to take home, and fish in bread in buns for which is fast food. Sandwiches is fast food. And but the cliche is more love. The cliche that America is ruining the world with fast food is more loved. It's how you perceive America. It's how you build your world. And so, a lot of my life I spent research as a journalist, looking for, because I thought that's the thing that journalists are supposed to do. They're supposed to look for the truth behind the facade. And so I spent much of my time doing that, and I have written, I made something of a career out of it. Okay, and that's not a bad career, right? So it's fine. But in fact, no one wants to hear about it. It's not, and I think I know why. Well, first of all, they look at me and I've got, I don't know, for some reason I'm the person that you do not want to listen to. You want to tell him what to do or what about life. People like to, instruct me and teach me and to be the teacher and the philosopher and the great, I've been here 30 years and they'll explain how German works and the meanings of German words. Come on, seriously. Even my little friends, little American friends who come over and they have no idea, what Germany is about, but they say Germany is a much greater country than America. America's shit, and of course this is what they get from their liberal, liberal newspapers. Liberals like to complain about, how terrible America is compared to Europe and how great Europe is, of course, without knowing what Europe is all about. And even my, beloved niece, during the Trump time was all about telling me what was going on, but I don't know. I mean, I'm the guy who, I studied history, I studied literature, I write about politics, I written books about, international relations, about America, about Germany, about history. But, someone will read an article in a paper or listen to CNN and have the need to teach me about what they just read, basically. So it's just my face. But there's something more than that, I gotta say. See, this has been with me all my life. This has been with me as a kid, around the dinner table, the family dinner table, where, my bigger brothers and sisters would argue about politics, and with Dad, and he would, was a big game for him, and it was great. And I could not share in because I was smaller and not as fast. Okay, so I failed that, and I've been trying to compensate for that all my life. I'm trying to, find some way to tell people to be the know-it-all. See, there it is, the know-it-all. So from the very beginning, when I was doing that article, Our Men in the Bathroom, and also when I got here and started writing books, well-researched, truthful books about the world we live in, telling people what they do not know about their own country, about international relations, about themselves. I mean, they're really, the things I write in books, I look them up, and it's you can find it. It's in the statistics. It's in the most people in Europe think that America is like the great globalizer because we send McDonald's all over the world, and therefore we're destroying the world with our culture. We're forcing our culture upon other countries. But look at the statistics. We export half of our 10% of our gross national product is exports. Germany, it's 30 to 40%, somewhere between 30 and 40% each year. They really export everything. If you look at the absolute numbers, Germany and China are the biggest exporters of goods and services in the world. America's number 3 in absolute numbers. But no one knows that. No one says, Germany and of course China are the biggest globalizers in the world. No, that's America. It has to be America. So I look up the numbers and I say it, and they say, "Oh, Eric, you're full of shit." Well, I've said this before, and you can tell that I suffer from it, under it. But there's 2 reasons, I think, why why it's like that. One is because I'm just that kind of guy who no one is going to ever take seriously. And the other reason is because I am disingenuous. I want to use the truth, or what I call the truth, or the look, the truth behind the truth, to get back at people, or to build myself up in their eyes, or to be mean to them, to tell them that they're wrong. Maybe they want to do the same thing too. Maybe that's why they talk to me too. They want to, get back at me and be mean to me, but that doesn't make what I do any better. It is the action of a know-it-all. That's the thing about truth, and the stuff I say, I mean, not everything, I'm full of shit too, but the stuff, when I write it, I 99% of the time, it's true because I researched it. And so it is truth. Okay. So truth is truth, right? But truth is often also a way of proving that you're smarter than the next guy. See, and that's it, So is that it? Is that what I'm doing? Is that all? Just trying to make myself better than everyone else? Or than someone else? Anyone. I'm not the only one out there, though. I run into trolls all the time, and trolls are, well, see, that's the thing. See, that's what a troll does. A troll looks for a way to make himself better than another person using, knowledge or opinion or something, or outrage or something. And that's what I was doing. And that's a kind of a cynical, that is cynicism. It's deep inside, it's cynicism. It's using something, truth or whatever, for reasons it should not be used for. I was telling myself I was trying to do some good in the world, to change people's perspective on how they look at things. And I guess in a way, I mean, that's not untrue necessarily, because I was trying to do that, and I still am, and I think it is important, and I suffer and regret that I was basically a failure in doing it. I could not succeed in changing anyone's perspective, adding, let anyone profiting from the work I did. I don't think anyone profited from the books I sold. Maybe a couple people did, but probably not. It was very little. So there we go. So I'm, reaching the end of my life, looking back and realizing that part of the reason why I failed may be my own fault, because I was, or maybe even not even my own fault, just because I deserved it. Because a troll deserves to fail. A troll is someone whose only purpose is to build himself up into something that he didn't actually earn. So did I not earn that? I guess not. So there we go. So realizing this, looking back at my writing, at much of it, I mean, it's damn good writing, and I researched it, the nonfiction, and I did well on the thrillers. It was damn good, and it still is, and it's still, if you're German, read the books. They're good books. But there's this deficit. There's this thing that I was doing that is not real, not right. I was in some way inauthentic, in some small way that was big enough to stop me from finding in my writing, in my work, in the resonance of my work, finding satisfaction, finding a kind of fulfillment. So now I stand on the cusp of, the last 20 years of my life, and I'm looking for a way to get to that fulfillment. So I'm trying to go from this cynicism to sincerity or authenticity. That's the word I guess people use nowadays. I remember standing around with a guy in the film business named Jerry in Cannes at a film festival in Cannes when I was doing journalism, film journalism, industry journalism, and he said out of nowhere, he said cynicism is the refuge of people who are hiding. And I always wondered if he was referring to me. It never seemed to me then that I was very cynical. I'd never really talked very much, frankly. But maybe he was. And maybe the hiding is not just hiding myself from other people, but hiding myself from myself. So sincerity is a journey into vulnerability, into a kind of truthfulness that you can't weaponize. It's unweaponized truthfulness. And that's what I'm trying to find. I'm trying to find some kind of truth in me or in life, or, and finding truth in life depends on how I see it, depends on my perspective, how I'm looking at it. So it has a lot to do with how I view life. I'm not viewing life the way I should view it in order to write what I want to write. The final things before I die, I want to write something truthful and useful that is not, full of self-congratulatory bullshit. So I'm thinking cat stories. I just told this to Astrid in the kitchen. And she said, well, maybe cat stories are sincerity for beginners. She said that. Sincerity for beginners. That's funny. It's pretty good. The cat stories, I started writing 1 or 2 years ago. I just started writing stories, just on my own, and in trying to find a way out of this, I don't know, this trap that I've gotten myself into over the last 60 years, or 50, 40 years, 50 at least. I've been doing this for a long time. Whatever it is I've been doing, I can't really even describe it properly. I'm just babbling. I can't put my finger on it exactly, but I know that it's there. I know there's something wrong, something I've been doing wrong, and I'm trying to weasel my way out of it. Try to get out of it like a fish slipping out of a clenched fist. Whatever that is. And so I started doing these stories. And there was a wide range of stories that I did, and some were kind of know-it-all stories. There were parables, which in the end kind of lambasted humanity for being horrible, and they were almost painful. Like Astrid would read them and say, "This is too painful. This hurts." Even though they were like medieval parables, but I agree they hurt, and even if they were true. And I don't, well, 1 or 2 of them were, but maybe not all of them. Whatever, even if they were true, being hurting human life. Because, the thing is, truth doesn't really have much to do with human life. Truth is not really necessary. Love is necessary. Of feeling good about yourself, finding some kind of happiness, some kind of fulfillment, some kind of a purpose in life. All that is necessary. But truth is not really necessary. I mean, we romanticize truth. We say, the striving for truth, and it's a big T, written with a capital T, and it's all this, uh, we have this romantic vision about it, but it's like a romantic vision of writers. It's a writer in a movie where he sits down and the music goes kind of classical, and the light is like there's a green reading lamp, and he's typing and looking at the window, and all these things that he's experienced in his life are flowing into him through a funnel onto the page. It's bullshit. Of course, a writer, it's basically a guy with a bad back, just typing, taking out each page and throwing it away because it's trash, and and trying to earn a living. And we have this romanticized, similar idea about truth, and of course about love, and about a lot of things. There's all these romanticized. I once wrote down a list of romanticized ideas that don't really exist. Truth is one. Freedom is love. We seek freedom. That doesn't exist, and it's nonsense. And love, eternal love. Love comes and goes. Happiness, the kind of happiness that is always like a state of like heroin. A constant, endorphins, dopamine, heroin. In the brain. It's that kind of happiness. It's forget it. It's nonsense. It's not there. It's just something we imagine. And truth is one of those things. And truth actually doesn't really have much effect in our lives. I mean, very seldom. You say you want to know the truth, but do you? And when you find out the truth, is it really the truth? Is the same truth for you as for the other guy? I mean, during the Trump years, everything the leftists said about Trump was for some guy out there untrue, and everything they said about Trump or about Biden or Obama or whatever but the left was untrue for the left. It's not. I mean, it really is alternative facts. It's not. The left goes into what true is true, but if you look behind it, not in most cases, it's not really. It's just not really. They're just there. It's political. It's a political exaggeration. It's political propaganda. It's not really true. Is not really true in most cases. And it goes for both sides. I guess the more exaggerated, you talk about anything, really, the less true it is, and you say, the keeping illegal immigrants on the border and the detention is like the Holocaust, boy, that was just a Holocaust, man. You got to crack open a history book, It's just not. It's just not. But if truth is not that important, if truth is really kind of something you can take and leave, what is important? Important is what you can give to your fellow man, isn't it? I mean, if it's something like making him feel good, giving him a purpose in life, helping him to think through his problem, helping to think through his life, helping him to, giving him an idea of what life is about, or what kind of purpose is possible, or something like that. Helping him, get away from the problems of daily life and thinking about something more than that. Even if it's and I've been looking into books like by writers that most people, or at least people like with my education, in my friend would despise. Something like Paul Coelho. I have a friend who hates him. He just, every time the word is mentioned, and he will mention the word just to get upset. He gets himself upset just by saying the name Paulo Coelho. I don't know what his name is. A Portuguese guy, I guess, huh? And huge best, one of the top 15 books ever sold. That's how popular this book is. He's like one of the few people in the world who sold more than 100 million copies of a book, or 150 million copies of a book. It's really up there on that list. There's only like 20, 30 people on that list. Okay, so and I read The Alchemist, and I didn't understand it. I wasn't that impressed, but even then, obviously he gave people something. He provided something to just normal readers, maybe to intelligent readers, maybe to dumb readers, maybe to readers who are on the left or on the right, maybe readers who, have a big job and readers who have an unimportant job. I don't know who they were, but he gave something to someone. Doesn't matter how he did it or why or what it was. It doesn't matter if anything he said in the book is true. He made people think about something, think maybe in a certain direction. What you actually write in a book doesn't in the end stick with the reader. What sticks with the reader is kind of a general feeling, a general direction, a general thought, a general impression it makes on your life. If you read a book like The Alchemist and you think more about where your life is going and the values that you have in life. Even if the next day you wake up and you got to go back to your job at McDonald's or your job, I don't know, selling drugs, to people, or whatever it is you're doing, even if it doesn't make you into a good person or a monk or a person who sees the truth. We sometimes need books or things that make us think about life. I mean, isn't that part of being a human being? Just thinking about our lives, even if we don't get to the core of it. And who does? I mean, even these great philosophers don't. They all admit it. I understand maybe this and that in life, but I don't, what life is, I don't get it. Yet we should all think about it, and we want to think about it, and we all have the capacity. Even this, the stupidest, the stupid Trump voter among us, he sits down every once in a while and thinks about life. He does. Because that's a natural, normal thing for a human being to do. And so, what do I want to do? Do I want to be the guy who takes this guy and say, hey, you're a Trump voter, you're evil? Or do I want to be the guy who says, here's a story, and it's a cute little story, you'll like it, and for 5 minutes after reading it, you will think about life? That's the guy I want to be. That's the guy I want to be. Cat stories are sincerity for beginners. So when I was doing these stories, I did medieval parables. I did really horrible, cruel crime stories about serial killers and murder, and which I really like. I think they're really good stories. Maybe I'll publish them someday. I think they're really good stories. I like them. And I also did stories that were consciously cute and popular, popularistic, or of course they weren't popular because no one read them. But I consciously said, okay, what would I write if I wanted, kind of a big general audience, not the special elite of intelligent people, who were the brainiacs. But just the normal guys. What would I write? And so, love stories. Cat stories. I wrote some cat stories. I wrote some ghost stories, which I like. I took some legends from Hawaii, including the Kumulipo, which is a very mysterious book, Hawaiian chant, actually. And I wrote some stories about them. And I just made them kind of as simple and life-affirming as possible. And the cat stories were all kind of life-affirming. They were mainly about humans, but humans, but through the kind of interaction with cats, there's some kind of cat element, And because they were cat stories, everything became a little, fluffy and light and entertaining and simple. And somehow humanly true in just a human way. Just like a little love story. A love story without the warts. Take out the warts, Or a little story about feeling left out and trying to find a place to belong in life, in a lifelong struggle to find a place to belong. But the cat finds it in the end, Things like that. Little human stories. Nothing know-it-all-ish about him. Nothing cynical about him. It was just reaching out to the reader and kind of patting him on the back. Just taking squeezing his hand a little bit, saying, feel good. For 5 minutes, feel good. Feel good about yourself. Feel good about life. It's good. Reaching out, giving their hand a little squeeze. That's, I don't know, is that sincerity? It's the opposite of what I was struggling to do before. It's the opposite of probably what most kind of wannabe intellectuals like myself do. But I've been thinking about these stories because I started, kind of pseudo publishing and putting them online, seeing what happens, if someone will react to them and that kind of thing. And of course, I don't have a marketing instrument, so no one's reacting to them, but that's okay. It's a work in progress. I'm working on it and seeing what will happen. But I'm reading these things again and putting them out there. I'm proud of them. I'm proud of what I've done. I'm proud of this kind of simple human interaction with strangers. That's what I want to do. That's the direction I'm going. Are cat stories the end of the story? I don't think so. But this is the direction I'm going. I hope I can get there on time before I'm dead. Man, I wish I'd been able to. I'm such a know-it-all, God. I wish I'd been able to start like this when I was a kid, or had someone take me by the hand and say, hey, dude, reach out and touch someone in a nice, warm, friendly way. One of the first things, even before I went to high school and started working on the Surf Rider, on the paper there, this was even more cynical. I'm a horrible person. My God. I had an uncle who was working on a community paper, and he said, okay, you want to learn how to write? I'll give you an assignment. You go to this theater play. There's a little theater play put on by the community. It's a little just amateur theater play, and it's some kind of, I don't know, it's a whodunit or something, or some kind of dinner party, dialogue play or something. You go down there and you write a review of it, okay? And we'll see. We'll publish the review. And I wrote the review. And I was so proud of it because I just tore the thing apart. It was community play. Everything was horrible. These guys, they're not a Brando among them, and not a Shakespeare. Shakespeare did not write this script. They're tired. I used the word tired. I learned that word from reading reviews, other reviews, right? So you pick up the reviews and take the language of the reviews you love, which are the know-it-all, the better, the know-it-all reviews, right? The reviews that destroy other people. We'd love to see that. And I picked it up and I went for it and it never got published and he never reacted to it. Of course it didn't get published. It's a community newspaper. You can't do that. And he didn't have the guts or to tell me, to take me aside. I would have wished he would have. To take me aside and say, okay, Eric, look, this is what you got to do. These are real human beings. They're clerks. They're, cops. They're teachers. They're not actors. They're not writers. They just love this. This is their love. They have this love of this thing, and they're doing it because they love it. You have to give that to them. You have to look at them, who they are. All the idealism and the yearning and the dreams and all these things that go into these people standing on stage doing this little, slightly boring stage show. That's what you got to write about. That's what you got to put in. That's what you have to put in. That has to be in the paper. Because they deserve that. They deserve the little squeeze of the hand. That's what they deserve. No one told me that. I probably wouldn't have listened anyway. But I wished someone would have told me that. Someone would have taken me under their wing and said, Eric, this is what you got to do. This is don't go down this road of cynicism, of know-it-all, of trying to, make yourself intellectually intellectually superior, not to compensate for all the times, you were ignored around the dinner table. Do not compensate just because, you were number 5 in a 6-kid family and you couldn't, you couldn't swim faster than the sharks. That's your life. Embrace it, accept it, and do something that people need and not something that you are trying to compensate for your own little deficits, because that's completely self-centered and selfish and it's not right. I look back on that very first, it was the first thing I wrote, that was the first, a theater review. I'd forgotten it for so long, but when I do remember it and look back on it, I'm a little bit embarrassed. It wasn't published, but still, that was wrong. Cat stories are sincerity for beginners. That's it, folks. And thanks for listening. Tune in again next week or tomorrow or whenever it is I do this again. Whatever, I don't know. If you're interested in the things that are really important to me, I write them in books and I put them on videos. Check out my books on Amazon.com or my YouTube channel or my Twitter and Facebook feeds, or subscribe to my newsletter. That's kind of a lot now that I say it like that. Or any of the above, whatever. I hope I can contribute something to your life or to someone's life, anyone's life really, in some way. I appreciate your support, and I wish you all the luck and success and happiness and fulfillment in your life. Take care till next time.